everybody. I am Jarrett Ross, the Genie Vlogger, and welcome back to another live stream on the Genie Vlogger channel. It's been a couple of weeks of very sparse content from me because I've been traveling so much and just haven't been able to get some content out as quick as usual. But I should have a new reaction coming out soon and should hopefully have a lot of great content coming out on the main channel. But welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining. You may notice my background is slightly different than usual because usually I have a map. And now instead I have the background, which is from Jeopardy, which was at the IAJGS conference, which I was at just this past week. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about conferences in total. And I know I have a few people who are on Twitch. So for those who are on Twitch, if you don't know, on YouTube, I actually have a poll going right now. Have you attended a genealogy conference? Only 10 people have answered. And of those 10 people, only 3 have ever been part of a conference. So I guess a lot of people who are going to learn about conferences. Let's Oh, okay, there we go. All right. Little hiccup there, but all right. So as usual, let's do a quick hello with everybody, especially as we have more people coming on in. So Anna Tommaso, hello from Western New York. I watched the interview you did with Genealogy is Fun. Yeah, that interview was a lot of fun. Yona, it was really, really cool. He, I met him at the conference. I've been in touch with him for years. I can't remember if I had him in my top 5 up and coming genealogy YouTubers video I did years back. But I want to say that he was part of that. But he met me at the conference and was like, hey, you want to come over and do a quick interview since you're in town, and I'll put it on my channel. I was like, yeah, definitely. That'd be awesome. So I don't really get interviewed that much. So that was really cool having to actually answer questions. So that's awesome to hear that you liked it. For those who haven't seen it, check out Yona's channel. Genealogy is Fun. That's literally what it's called. And I do an interview on there. So yeah. Hello, Alexandra from Koblenz, Germany. Always wonderful to have you. Also, James Burton from London. Hello, James. Wonderful to have you. Julia Joyce. Hello, greetings from Hampshire, UK. Wonderful to have you, Julia, as well. And then one of our Twitch watchers. Hello, 937-373-792. I have like flying all around me. Hello. John Tyner, one of our wiki treers. Good evening from the east coast of Ireland. Wonderful to have you, John. And Sharon Phillips. Hello from New York. Hello, Sharon. And a little wiki there from Hello 937. John, I saw Genealogy's Fun interview also. That's awesome. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Really was a fun interview. James Burton, looking forward to this topic. Genealogy conferences are so great. I wish I could get to more of them. Went to my first NGS conference in Sacramento in 2022. Yeah, they are a lot of fun. They're, for people who are obsessed with genealogy like myself, it's one of the best places to learn about the newest things coming up. But it's also one of the best places to meet other genealogists and other people who are obsessed with this stuff, like many of us are. Or for people who just really want to learn a lot more. You can learn about so much, especially a lot of the companies that are out there that you just may not realize. So actually, funny enough, my first conference was an NGS conference, which I wasn't originally planning to go to, but maybe I'll tell that story at some point if someone asks me and I remember. Okay, Carol Suniga coming in from Southern California. Hello, Carol. Wonderful to have you. Stig from Oslo, our Scandinavian representation. Wonderful to have you, Stig. Stig, weren't you on, was it you that was on vacation in Livorno recently? Or not Livorno, Tuscany, I think it was. I was, Livorno's in Tuscany, but still. Yeah. Anna, starting in 2018, I've been to 5 different conferences. FGS conference doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, FGS, the Federation of Genealogical Societies, merged with NGS, the National Genealogical Society, and now they don't even do in-person conferences. I think they do completely virtual. But maybe they'll come back. I think a lot of people are wanting the in-person stuff to come back. And this year at IAJGS's conference, we had a lot of people. It was over 900 people, which was awesome. Julia Joyce, I watched Roots Tech on YouTube this year. Roots Tech is the biggest genealogy conference by far, and I like to compare it when you go in person. It's the closest thing that you'll get to Comic-Con for genealogists. There's a lot of big name people that will show up. This past year, it was, oh my gosh, of course I'm going to blank on his name as soon as I need to say it. Mr. Beat actually just recently interviewed him at the DNC thing. What was his name? He was in he was Rudy. He was one of the hobbits. Sean Astin was at Roots Tech. Emmett Smith spoke at Roots Tech one year. I want to say what's her name from Blindside, the mom of the Toohey family. I think she spoke at one of them, and they usually get a couple of really big name people, but then they also, I mean, the biggest names in genealogy, and just, yeah, it's really cool. It's very worthwhile going, but they also have that completely free virtual option, which, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff there too, but being able to go to a genealogy conference in person, worthwhile. And I met some Genie Vlogger fans at the conference who are pretty active and all that too. Daniel M, evening from Bristol, UK. Hello, Daniel. Thank you for joining. Karma from Nebraska. Hello, Karma. Always wonderful to have you. John Tyner, I have been to Genealogy Roadshow Irish version. Very cool. I didn't realize they had an Irish version. I obviously knew about the American version. They only did a couple of seasons of that, though. I don't think it did super well. But that's cool that there's an Irish version. I wonder how that is. Is it the American version was literally Antiques Roadshow, just genealogy format mostly. But yeah, so I'm guessing that's kind of the same thing. Hello 937. Hi, I'm waiting for your next genealogy reaction video. It'll be coming out on Monday. I'm still editing it actually, but it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a long one. I guess I'll probably just go ahead and give it away. I'll be reacting to Veritasium's video from a few years ago about identifying the Golden State Killer using investigative genetic genealogy. So I actually go into a lot of stuff in that I don't usually talk about on the channel, because I don't usually talk about my career in an IGG, and in this I do talk about it somewhat, and especially some of the new stuff coming out with it. Flo, hello from the Pacific Northwest. Hello, Flo. Thank you for joining. Nick, goedenavond vanuit Groningen. Hello, hoe gaat het? Hope you're doing well, Nick. Always wonderful to have my Netherlanders. Allison Morgan from Titusville, Florida. Hello, Allison. Thank you for joining us. We have Adam from Swindon, England. Hello, Adam. Thank you for joining. Simply Smarter Shopping. Hello, JT here from California. Hello, JT. Thank you for joining as well. And Bear Var, hi from Zurich. Sorry I didn't get to thank you last week for your helpful advice before the live stream finished. No worries. Always happy to help, Bear Var. I should mention here too, by the way, if anyone wants to ask questions, I know I'm going to talk about genealogy conferences, but always happy to answer questions. Can't guarantee I will, but I'll do the same thing that I do in my question and answer streams, where if you ask a question through a super chat or sticker or whatever, the pay things, I guarantee I'll answer that. A big part of it being that it just makes it easy for me to find those. But yeah, well, you're welcome. Oh, Catherine, what do you mean obsessed? Haha, just got home this afternoon. Well, hello, Catherine, my cousin. Thank you for joining. I'm glad to hear that you made it back wonderfully okay. Hope the rest of the trip was great. For those who don't know, Catherine's a cousin of mine that I met in London last year. I didn't talk about her. I don't think I talked any about you in the video I did, although I think you were in a couple of shots that I had. But for anyone who was following my Instagram, Catherine and I went and saw stand-up comedian Zoltan Cassis while we were in Philly. A comedian that I really enjoy. And so, yeah. Hello, Catherine. So, yeah. Stig, yes, I'm often in Luco, which is just north of Livorno. Okay. So I guess north of Livorno, still along the coast-ish. Or, I mean, it's Tuscany, so, Tuscany is beautiful. I've never made my way out there, but I need to. Karma, I've been starting to attend some of the genealogy events held by the Lancaster County Genealogical Society. They just had a meeting on Sunday pertaining to German genealogy. That's honestly not a bad way to kind of get your foot in the door to see if you really enjoy going to genealogy events. Now, I will say genealogy conferences are a much different thing than local genealogy events most of the time. Not always, obviously there is a lot of correlation, but with a lot of local events, it often seems to be kind of based around one or two talks, and it'll be maybe like a day event. And there's just something about having like a multi-day, multi-night event where you're constantly hanging out with all the other genealogists, going to get food all over the place, and, exploring the city that you're in and whatnot, and also learning together and all of that. So like the genealogy events are a great way to kind of get your foot in the door, see what people are there locally, because a lot of times people who are doing stuff locally, you'll probably also see them a good amount of them at the bigger genealogy events. But I just find with the local ones, it really usually is focused more on, okay, we have this one or two main talks, or maybe a couple. Sometimes they'll have like a whole day of talks, but won't be more than 2 tracks or something. So it's kind of like you're sitting in talks the entire time, which at a genealogy conference, that does happen. There's a lot of talks. So a lot of people end up spending their whole time largely in talks, but there's still so much more to get out of it. So definitely worthwhile to check out your local stuff. Local societies too. A lot of good local societies for a lot of people, even beyond just genealogy. So if you have a specific focus on something like Jewish genealogy societies, there are tons of JGSs all over the world, especially in the US. But there's other types of societies. Like I know that there's, Volga German societies. There's obviously, larger societies of things like Daughters of the American Revolution, Sons of the American Revolution, things like that. But just a lot of different things you can join and check out. I actually use the analogy about Comic-Con and Roots Tech. Yeah, it's the closest thing, especially because at Roots Tech, they have an expo hall where there's stuff to do beyond just here's a company and their table and what they're selling. Last year, they had a basketball court. They had a pickleball court. They had like famous pickleball people come in and play pickleball. I guess I don't really remember it that well. How famous they were. I did get it on my stream though, if you go back and watch the walkthrough at Roots Tech. But they also had, just a lot of companies that have things that are fun to do or check out. Like Storied had a booth that had a lot of stuff to it that people seem to enjoy. They also had like a Central Park area where there was like games like large chess and large Jenga, and there was like a 360 camera thing. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun stuff to do. And then also because they have a lot of big name acts coming, they have on their main stage, they have musical acts and they have comedians. I don't remember the name of the guy that was there this year, but they had a guy who was a comedian, and I was like, oh, I wonder how this is going to go, where they usually interview these guys about stuff, and he just did a straight set about stand-up, or a stand-up set, related to genealogy and family history. But yeah, it's a lot of fun going to Roots Tech. There's a lot of stuff to do. Hello 937. What are your opinions on the MyHeritage DNA update? I've heard it has the most ethnic groups and is the most accurate database. I haven't received my update yet. Have you? As far as I know, the updates are still on pause. For those who aren't quite sure what the question's about, I believe the question is asking about MyHeritage's update to their admixture percentages, so the ethnicity percentages. And that started to roll out at the beginning of July, I think it was. I can't remember. And then they asked for responses from people where there had been updates. Then they got the responses, and since then it's been on pause. So, we'll have to see when they actually roll it out. But my understanding is that they're, taking all that feedback and trying to adjust things. So hearing if it's the most accurate or not, my guess is that's really going to be more of marketing jargon from my heritage, if anything, or people that are, pushing for my heritage. For me, we'll see. The thing about the ethnicity estimates is that they're really one of the least genealogically useful parts of the DNA test. So even with the update, for me, it's like, even though people are caring about it a lot, and even though I am talking about it, and we'll talk about it when the updates come out, I'm honestly doing that more just because the public interest in that is so large, and not as much that it's my interest, because for me, it's like, whatever. Once you get the admixtures and you can use it for different people, there might be a little genealogical usefulness to it, but for the most part, once you start building the tree and all that, it becomes useless, outside of possibly identifying things that you're not expecting in the tree. But yeah. John Tyner, I've been to Sermonete in middle of Italy. I'm sure I did not pronounce that right. Sermonete. Hello. Since recombination can't affect DNA, what is the most amount of DNA you can share with your first grandparent? And what is the least amount of DNA you can share with your first grandparent, since you get a random 50% from each parent? I don't know, because what it sounds like you're asking for is possible outliers. I'm not sure. That's you could probably look up studies or something, statistical analysis, but I'm not going to focus too much on it. Sorry. Sorry. Honestly, I imagine, you could probably, I imagine, I don't know. I'm sure there's some sort of theoretical based on recombination. The lowest possible could be this or something, but yeah, I'm sure that's extremely rare. All right, let's actually talk about the conferences. Just kind of looking through the last of the stuff. Oh yeah, Kevin Cho. He was the comedian, best known for Revenge of the Nerds, the third one, I think. Okay, yeah, he was the guy that was the comedian there. So, all right, so so the conference that I went to was the IAJGS conference, which was located in Philadelphia. Share. So here we go. There. Perfect. So this is the website. It's a pretty good conference. Honestly, nowadays there's not as many genealogy conferences as there used to be. Now, this is obviously geared towards Jewish genealogy. So the majority of everything is going to be Jewish genealogically helpful. Granted, there's a lot of non-Jewish genealogists who attend, and there's a lot of stuff that is here that is applicable to the non-Jewish genealogy world. But this is the place where, if you are wanting to learn about Jewish genealogy, or you're especially like trying to become much more well-versed in Jewish genealogy, this is the best conference. Now I did I did a couple of talks while I was there. Let's see. I think if it still is, my talk is literally the first talk that's at the top of the list. There we go. So Share Fair, and then my talk, The Future of Genealogy, which ended up having so many people that there was only standing room left. Granted, I think the room was big enough that they could have fit a lot more chairs in, and if they had, it probably wouldn't have been standing room. But still, I'll give it to myself. But a lot of really good talks, and I'll just kind of scroll through so you can see some. While I was there, I did a live stream, not through my channel, but through the IAJGS YouTube channel. So if you go to the IAJGS YouTube channel, which I recommend, check out, subscribe. I did this live stream at the Share Fair. So this is me holding that microphone and all that. So technically kind of like one of my streams, just a little bit different. but not that much different. It's me walking around interviewing people, that whole thing. But really, really fun. So this was quite a successful conference. Last year we did it in London, which the one in London unfortunately just didn't do that well. There are a lot of things that probably went into it, and I'm not going to get into that. But with London, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I want to say it was about 400, 450 for this year. For the Philly one, I want to say it was over 900. It was quite a well-attended conference from all the ones that I've seen. A lot of really, really cool speakers that are starting to speak a lot more. One of the big ones would be Stephen Little, who I think I've talked about a bit on the channel before, but he's kind of the guru of gurus, I want to say, when it comes to utilizing AI for genealogy. So he has the best experience from my experience, if that makes any sense. So he was really great. Who else did we have there? I mean, a lot of these people are just really great speakers. I'm not going to get into too much. Steve's one that really stands out because he's one that I don't think a lot of people would have expected to be there, being that this is a Jewish Genealogy Conference. Okay, let's move that. So the big conference to talk about is Roots Tech, which, I imagine that's the one that everyone's most familiar with. Thank you for that. Hello. So this one, like I was saying before, is basically the Comic-Con of genealogy conferences. With IAJGS having about 900 people, that was quite great numbers. For Roots Tech, they're usually in the tens of thousands of people. I don't remember the exact number of last year, but I want to say I heard 20,000 people in person, not including online. Online, then it gets into millions, I think. I mean, they have stuff in every language, or not every language, but tons of languages. So I mean, literally, all of this stuff they have it. So like, let's see what do they have in Dutch? Just Dutch. So you can watch all of this just in Dutch. So, and I think they have a lot of this stuff where basically one of the things they did this previous year was that they had all of these translators who were then translating into all these various languages the actual speeches and stuff. So basically making it as worldwide as possible. So what is this? Okay, getting texts. So one of these days I will get to Roots Tech. Yeah, and honestly, I mean, Roots Tech is where you really do get the biggest names. So I'm sure, Henry Cho, like I mentioned before, Nancy Borowick, Lynn M. Jackson, who's the granddaughter of Dred and Harriet Scott. Then Katie James, she did a virtual keynote. But then they've had a whole bunch of other ones in previous years. So like Sean Astin was one. And then they just have all these here we go. Sean Astin, Marako, Jordan Sparks. So, So very worthwhile to go to conferences. Yeah. I guess we'll get into some questions and stuff now. Jeez, it's storming like crazy where I am. Okay. So, hold on one second, everybody. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. All right, let's see. What's chat saying? Do you have any interest in the phenotype part of genealogy, like what certain people look like from various population groups? I promise this is my last question, or are you more interested in the family trees and DNA matches? By far the latter. I'm much more into family trees and DNA matches. The phenotyping thing is interesting, but until it reaches a point where its viability has some sort of genealogical usefulness, it's really not something that I'm going to care about that much. I think it's interesting in the sense of, if we're able to do reconstructed genomes of ancestors where we don't have images of them and then being able to phenotype based on that, I think that's very interesting because then you're getting an idea of what your ancestors look like. But yeah, for the most part, I really don't have that much interest in the whole phenotyping side of things. Anna watched it all in Italian this year. I'm guessing, yeah, Roots Tech. Yeah, that's cool. Karma, Kristen Chenoweth was also this year. Matthew Modine was a few years ago. Yeah, they always have a lot of good people. Several of the Roots Tech people are my 10th cousins. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are related with the Roots Tech thing. So one thing about Roots Tech is it is run by the LDS Church, the Church of the Latter-day Saints, and they put a lot of money into it. And so that's one of the reasons why it's so big compared to all the other conferences, which beyond Roots Tech and IAJGS, now like NGS and FGS are no longer around. They just do virtual. There is ECCG, the East Coast. What is that? East Coast. What is it? Yeah, the East Coast Genealogy Conference, ECGGC. That's right. So that's one that I've been hearing a lot more about with people. Their website's all glitched out. Looks like. But that's one that I've been hearing a lot about. There's also the one that CC Moore does down in San Diego. What is that one? Yeah, I4GG. Which actually, like, I've been thinking, there's been a few of these I've thought about going to, but then part of the issue is, I think one of the biggest issues that a lot of these conferences have, and that's the difficulty of time and money, because a lot of these conferences are in places that are not cheap and not easy to get to, depending on where you live. So like a lot of people on the East Coast, I feel kind of get ripped off a bit with conferences because, Roots Tech is Salt Lake City. And then it seems a lot of the other conferences are often East Coast, or sorry, not East Coast, West Coast. So obviously I4GG is San Diego. NGS and FGS would be all over the place. Like I know the first one I ever went to was in Raleigh. NGS in Raleigh 2017, I want to say. 2018. Yeah, NGS was in Raleigh in 2017, May 2017, which was a month before I started my YouTube channel, because my YouTube channel was started in June of 2017. I think it was end of May 2017 that I registered the channel and all that. But yeah, it just feels like nowadays it's all very West Coast heavy. So coming from the East Coast, it's just been like a lot of conferences where I'm like, I kind of want to go, but the costs and all of that is just too much. And I imagine for a lot of people, especially younger folks who are working, because you also have to take the time off of work, it's just so difficult to do conferences. And I know this is something that I've been pushing to try to help change in a way for the IAJGS conference, because I'm on the board for the IAJGS. I'm on the board of the directors. And so, that's the two biggest things that I think are the hurdles for younger genealogists to do this stuff is time and money. And it's especially not made helpful when it's in a really expensive city that's really expensive to get to. And yeah, so I don't know. We'll see how all these different conferences change, if other conferences pop up or if other ones get a lot bigger. Like I know Ramapo, they have their IAJGS program, but then they also did a genealogy conference. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, it was an IAJGS conference. But so they did their own conference, but much smaller sort of thing. But yeah. And a lot of these conferences are, I want to say, about somewhere around this kind of a price point, within the couple $100 ranges. The cheapest ones I want to say are maybe like a couple of $100. The more expensive ones get into the, $500, $600. But then again, also depends on what kind of conferences you're going to, because nowadays there's a lot of genealogists who want to be part of the investigative genetic genealogy world. We're going to the forensic genealogy conferences, which are academic conferences that cost a lot more, and sometimes in the couple of $1,000 range for one admission. So, yeah. Let's see. What was I? Oh yeah. New series season for you Yanks of Who Do You Think You Are started a few weeks ago here in the UK. Yeah, well, I do the VPN thing, so I get to watch some stuff around the world. Is there a BCG stream at Roots Tech, like at the NGS conference? I don't know. I only went to the one NGS conference, which was at Raleigh, which technically I went, but I didn't pay for a ticket. If I remember, I can't remember what did I do. I think I just paid for like the most basic of entries, or maybe I didn't even pay to go into the expo hall. I think I might have just gone for free. I don't know. Either way, I don't remember that, but that's really interesting to hear that they had a BCG stream. I don't think I've seen that in Roots Tech. I imagine you could probably search the Roots Tech. Search Roots Tech for BCG. So BCG, for those who are unfamiliar, is Board for Certified Genealogists, or I forgot the exact terminology, but yeah, you have AG, so I guess speakers. Okay, you can't search by certification. That would be kind of interesting to be able to search speaker by certification. But yeah. Random, saw Mel C from Spice Girls yesterday. Very cool. Very cool. Do you know why the LDS are so interested in genealogy? Yes, the whole idea of proxy baptisms. If you watch the video I did about Drew Durnell, I talk about that. The whole proxy baptisms thing. So, within their doctrine. When I watch these episodes, I try and enter them into the FS tree. Okay. Wait, NGS is still around and it's in person? Really? NGS was... I thought they decided to go completely virtual. Yeah, I don't know. I think it looks virtual. Yeah, virtual family history conference. I don't know. Yeah, Conference Keeper might be a good way to see what is closer to you in terms of conferences. Yeah, Conference Keeper is a great site. I think it was just sold, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I think it was just sold. It is the most up-to-date website concerning conferences and genealogy related events and all of that. Let's see. I know there was a way to. It includes all sorts of stuff. So, yeah. All right. So, in person Tennessee, GCCS, Summit of Excellence Conference. In person, Genie Quest. Yeah, virtual, the APG Conference, Association of Professional Genealogists. It's a lot of it really is a lot of virtual stuff. Which isn't terrible, but it certainly is a lot nicer when you've got both. Yeah, there's the 36th International Congress of Genealogical and Heraldic Sciences, which is basically NEHGS. Let's see what ones there are. Virtual. Here's one in the UK. Oh. Here we go. Hybrid ECCGC. Oh, that's right. It's October. That one's all virtual, I think. All virtual. I just saw this as Conference Keeper on the US. No, it is not. It is worldwide, but largely US based stuff is what they hear about. This is the big one. AAHGS, African American Genealogy and History Society. It's basically kind of like GRIP and SLIG, although obviously much more focused on African American history. Trying to see what other ones I might recognize. And then, I mean, there are a lot of like regional and local ones. A lot of stuff going on in October. Yeah. acronyms, all the acronyms. Yeah, one of the guys that's been a big part of the Jewish Genealogy Societies, Nolan Altman, would always say alphabet soup. And he even had a whole talk called Alphabet Soup, where it's just literally kind of deciphering all of the acronyms for all of the various groups and conferences and all that craziness. So, yeah. And then here's the next one, 2025. That's going to be in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So, mark your calendars. Did I miss Roots Tech? Okay, no, there it is. Roots Tech 2025. Let's see what's in North Kakalaki. Let's see, chapter APG meeting. Yeah, actually, I haven't been to one of my NCAPG meetings in forever. It's really funny how I used to go to a lot more stuff, actually. And then after COVID hit, then I just stopped going to so much stuff. Just realized I hadn't ended that poll, so I just ended that poll. And I think it's an overwhelming people have not checked out conferences. There is a lot of stuff going on in the genealogy world, though. A lot of different companies popping up, and it's definitely going to be very interesting to see how things progress, and especially conference wise, that's for sure. It definitely will be quite different, I think, in 5-10 years. See what conferences are doing really well, what new ones have come up. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is actually really useful for anybody who's a genealogist or trying to become a professional genealogist or wants to do talks and stuff. Call for presentations are very important to keep your eye on because that's how you get speaking opportunities. So, calls for papers. I should actually do something about that. All right. So, yeah. Conferences. It's almost as if someone changed to stop us going to stuff. I feel like people are starting to really enjoy going back to conferences. I know for a lot of us at IAJGS this year, that was the big feeling I got was that everyone's like, oh, it's so good to be back. It feels good to be back. Everyone's doing stuff. Although, granted, I think after the conference, there were a few people who got sick. But I think, no matter what, whenever you have a big event of people, people are going to get sick, unfortunately. So I don't know what happened after Roots Tech this past year, but Roots Tech also had gotten back into the swing of things. They, large tens of thousands of people attending. And, Gazillion. Hello, what did I miss? Just chatting about conferences, genealogy conferences. So I was talking a little bit about my experience at IAJGS. Actually, I guess I didn't really talk that much about it. So let's, I guess a few things we can talk about. For one, I'll just make myself big there. What's behind me. So one of the things at IAJGS that we have is we have all these different like fun genealogy games stuff. It's just a way to have like a fun way. It's just fun. It's basically what I'm getting at. So one of those things is Jeopardy, which is the image behind me. And with Jeopardy, the idea is that it's Jeopardy, but all of the questions are based around Jewish topics because this is a Jewish genealogy conference, but also with the idea that a lot of these topics also related to genealogy. So they had a couple of different people up. Let's see if I move myself this way. So right here, that's actually a cousin of mine, Steve Jaron. And I'm not 100% familiar with the other two. I don't remember their names. But here, this is Alex Kalzareth, who's actually a really interesting guy. If you look up him and his work, one of the biggest things that pops up is he pulled a lot of the records or some of the records about George Santos. And then over here, there we go. We have Jordan Oslander, who's also quite an interesting guy, but big character who often will host these events. One of the other ones we did is Genealogy Deathmatch. And I wonder what the best way to do this is. Probably this. Probably do this. So Genealogy Deathmatch is where two people go head to head in proving their a line of their family tree generation by generation. So basically, you get 2 minutes each round, and each round you prove one generation at a time. So first you prove your parents are your parents, then you prove your parents' parents are their parents, and then you each et cetera, until you can't go any further, and then whoever gets the furthest wins. And so it's kind of a fun way to show methodology and all this other stuff. While also, I guess I'll just show this. This works. And then I can talk about some of the other photos here too. Maybe I'll talk. Yeah, maybe I'll upload some other photos and talk about those too. Here we go. So yeah, easiest way to show it. Pull up my Canva. So up here, we were the judges for the event. Let's just bring this to the front. So we were the judges for the event. So there's me, ya boy, and this is Robin Magig, Georg Galgish, Serena Raffe, which you may have seen Serena Raffe on the I won't even mention it, but she's related to a well-known social media star. Me and Daniela Oligon. I can never remember it exactly, but we were the judges. And so each round, basically, you get 2-3 minutes or whatever it is to prove each generation. And then the judges kind of make judgments about if something stands up to proof or not. And then after 2 minutes, then a bell rings and then the next person goes up. And so if we feel a generation has not been proved properly through the genealogical proof standard, then we'll question that. And so this year, so the first one ever was I went up against Randy Schoenberg, which if you've ever seen the movie Woman in Gold, Randy Schoenberg is the person who Ryan Reynolds portrays. And you can actually go on YouTube. The genealogy deathmatch between Randy and I is up there, so you can see exactly what we do. It's quite a lot of fun. And one interesting note about it is the whole idea of genealogy deathmatch came out of a talk that I gave in 2019 in Cleveland. I did a talk called Iberia to Amsterdam, which was a look at the genealogy-related records for the Portuguese Jewish community of Amsterdam. And through that talk, Randy was like, oh, I could totally compare my Vienna line versus Jarrett's Dutch Sephardic lines because they go back to a similar distance, but the records that both are using are somewhat different. So that was kind of where that idea came from. What constitutes proof in this game? Well, what constitutes proof in genealogy? The exact same stuff. So they're basically each round people are showing the records that prove, this record's the birth record that says the kid's name and the parent's name. Here's the DNA. Here's a census record. Here's a correlating other directory or just typical genealogy. So that's what constitutes the proof. So during this year when we were doing it, so Randy was one of the contestants this year. And then the other contestant was Caitlin Hollander-Waz, who's an amazing genealogist. She's part of the Hollander-Waz Heritage Services, which is a company that's run by Caitlin and her husband, Michael. Michael Waz being someone who's been featured many times on my channel. And are they in any of these photos? Not in any of these photos. I'm sure I have a photo of them somewhere. Do I have a photo of them over here-ish? No. Okay. Well, let's close that. So don't have a photo of them, but really amazing genealogist. And so Caitlin went up against Randy, and one of Randy's rounds, there was a record where the transcription and what was written, and there was some contradictions there, and so we brought it into question, and we had to have Randy basically defend himself, and then we analyzed it. We ended up giving it to him. What was the movie called again that Ryan Reynolds was in? It's called Woman in Gold. Very interesting movie. It's all about Randy basically sued the government of Austria to get back this painting of this woman's aunt, and this painting was done by Gustav Klimt, and it's a very famous painting, hence the name of the movie Woman in Gold. But it's based, Randy was the one who did it, so E. Randall Schoenberg. So Randy has been featured on many of my videos. If you watch a lot of my videos about Genie, even going back to 2017, Randy was in a lot of those. Very cool guy, very, very down-to-earth guy. So that was the genealogy death match. Just going through some of these photos, I guess, just talking about some of the stuff we did, and also kind of gives you an idea of what you can learn, or people that you can meet when you're at the conferences. So, I didn't want to do that. So down here, this photo, this is the Genie Curators Dinner. And basically this was Genie employees, Genie curators, as well as a MyHeritage employee, because Genie is a MyHeritage company, or MyHeritage owned company, I think is the way they say it. And so this is just one of the things that, we do, is all these different groups get to meet up together, but you also get to meet the various people that you might work with on the internet that you don't really get to meet all the time. Plus, for those who aren't familiar as much with some of these websites, or maybe you have a question about something, you can ask the people that are running it. So this guy right here, this is Mike Stengel of Genie, and he is the general manager, I want to say. I can't remember his exact title. Maybe it's like executive director, or forgot. But, he's someone who not only can you learn a lot about with Genie, but if you have an idea, you can mention it to him and it might become a possibility. One of the things that we do is a lot of us all hang out together. So this guy right here, this is Jeremy, and he's one of the people who I met that was like, had seen my channel, knew who I was. He'd apparently been in touch with me a while back, and I corresponded with him a little bit because he's related to some of my second cousins. I forgot exactly how he's related, but not through the same line as me. But this is all us hanging out at a bar basically after the events of the night, and we're all just, having a good night, So, that's just one of the fun things you can do, is hanging out with other genealogists. Then here, this is myself, Alec Ferretti from Reclaim the Records, Steve Little, the guy I talked about earlier, who's the top, the cream of the crop when it comes to genealogical use of AI. And then Amy Johnson Crow, a fellow genealogy YouTuber who I hope many of you are familiar with. So we all went and had lunch together, which was really cool. And just one of the cool things you get to do. And then here, this is an image of me with Arthur and Bobby Kurzweil. Arthur Kurzweil is very well known in the Jewish genealogy world. His book, Generation to Generation, I think that's what it is, or something like that. It might be Generation from Generation, but he wrote this book back in the 80s about Jewish genealogy and his journey with Jewish genealogy, and it was a big inspiration for a lot of people. And he also was the person that was part of the group that started the first Jewish genealogy groups, which now has grown into the large conference and Jewish genealogy societies all around the world that we see today. And he has his daughter Malia is married to Will Levin, and Will Levin is a descendant of my ancestors' neighbors from Alliance, New Jersey. And Will and Malia have been featured on the channel many a time because they run the Alliance Community Reboot, which, if you've seen any of my stuff about Alliance, it's almost guaranteed that you'll see Will and Malia in a video. And actually, I interviewed Arthur in Alliance years ago because he come to that. So yeah, so I don't know. I figured I'd go through these pictures as a fun way for people to kind of see what was going on and all of that too. Okay, let's see, chat. Girl Scout. According to Ancestry, I'm 27% Ashkenazi. My birth father was half Jewish. His father was Jewish. My great-grandparents are from Belarus in 1890. I'm 27% Jewish on Ancestry. I mean, that makes sense. If your birth father was half Jewish, that means you have one grandparent who's fully Jewish, and that would be the equivalent of about 25%. So definitely all matches up. And one nice thing about when you're not fully Jewish for DNA testing is that when you're looking at your DNA matches who are fully Jewish, you don't have to worry about the issue of endogamy as much. So, yeah. Orthodox Jews say I am a Jewish, so what am... Oh, sorry, they say I'm not Jewish. What do I come on? Well, a lot of people run into this issue of, what do you call yourself if you find out you're genetically Jewish? And, am I Jew? Am I not? And basically, the way I like to describe it is it doesn't necessarily make you religiously or culturally Jewish if you didn't grow up with that, but it certainly makes you genetically Jewish and ancestrally Jewish. But to me, I see those as different things. I grew up culturally Jewish and, I lived with that, but I also grew up in a very specific Reformed secular version of Jewish. So even though I am Jewish, I hang out with other Jews, especially much more religious Jews. And that feels much more foreign to me because I grew up in a very secular, home. And even the synagogue I went to, my first two rabbis in the synagogue where I learned to speak Hebrew and everything. Well, read Hebrew. I don't really speak Hebrew. I can phonetically read it, but I had two female rabbis. That that's not hunky dory for a lot of the more religious sects of Judaism. So I think that's one of the things is that for one, everyone jumps Jewish into this one big idea. But really, there's all these separate parts because there's the circles of culturally Jewish, and then there's the circles of genetically / ancestrally Jewish. Now, if you decide that because you do have this ancestral connection that you want to learn more about the culture and be closer to the culture because maybe you feel a connection to it now, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be able to. And, I think when it comes to anyone defining themselves culturally, there's always going to be people who are going to be against that. I mean, especially in the world we live in today, the way that people look at culture and identity and race and ethnicity and, whatever other terminology you want to use about lumping people into different groups, there's always going to be people who I think are just not going to be happy with the way that you define it. I mean, there are people these days that just go full out and say that the people who call themselves Jews aren't real Jews. And it's, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Just craziness, but that's just the way it is. And you're going to have people on all sorts of extremes and all sorts of ends. And so, yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, about MyHeritage's update still soon for me. Yeah, none of my kits have updated since that one single one that updated in the first initial rollout. So I think I've said this a few times. I have like a bunch of DNA kits on MyHeritage, some that are uploads, some that are testing through MyHeritage directly, and some that, I guess, yeah, those are basically the only two. But basically, I only had one that was upgraded. It wasn't even one that was tested through MyHeritage. It was one that was uploaded to MyHeritage. And then all the other ones I have that are under my account have not updated. So I think they're waiting. I think they're trying to improve everything and especially take into account all the feedback they got. But I think we're going to have to see how well that goes. I don't know when they're going to roll that out. Larry Rose, I enjoyed your opening talk at IAJGS. Well, thank you very much, Larry. I appreciate you jumping into the into the chat here. Thank you for coming and seeing my talk at IAJGS. I know I heard from a lot of people about that talk that they enjoyed it, and I'm really happy about that because that's one of those talks that I really enjoy talking about because it's all the stuff that's like, here's the cool things going on. I try not even to talk too much about how to use it as much as here's what is out there. PZ. I call myself Ashkenazi. I'm not religious, but Ashkenazi covers ethnicity and culture. Yeah, and there's a big mix within that. I'm a secular Reformed American Jew, and that is a very different world viewpoint than an Orthodox Jew who lives in London and grew up in London, or a Hasidic Jew in Brooklyn, or the all the various versions of Jewish religious identity and cultural identity, and so. And then I have that whole Dutch Jewish thrown in there along with Dutch Sephardi, which kind of adds a very interesting sort of, I don't know. The fun of genealogy in my eyes is learning about all of the various cultures that you do come from, I think. And especially for Americans, how a lot of us are a big mix of that. Carmen, none of my kids have updated from MyHeritage. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I think once it rolls out next, I think they're probably going to do a real big rollout of it. May not be all, but it'll probably be a large amount. Charlie, evening. Thank you for joining, Charlie. An hour in. Good timing. Good timing. Charlie, our admin mod. Girl Scout, I now believe that my second great-grandmother, Mary Eisenberg, from Jewish, therefore my fifth great-grandfather, Gabriel Eisenberg, was a crypto-Jews on my mother's side, the other 2%. I don't know how you're jumping to all those conclusions, but one thing to be very wary of is jumping to conclusions too quickly based on no evidence. Creating hypotheses that you test, that's a good way to go about it. But concluding, therefore, this must be this. Not a good look unless you have actual evidence. And even when you have evidence, you have to consider what is a reasonable doubt that this evidence is wrong or could be incorrect. Feedback, diplomatic way of saying backlash. Well, they asked for feedback. I submitted one of those Google forms. So, they were looking for it. And I do know they want to be high quality with it. It's not like they're trying to be shitty with it or have bad results. They want to have the best results. It's just a matter of that they're fighting an uphill battle. It's very difficult to do it. They already have kind of not the best reputation with their admixture results. But the thing about them is that for the true genealogists, MyHeritage really is by far the best one when it comes to the tools available. Honestly, with Ancestry's recent Pro Tools rollout for the shared matches, that's the only thing that's really put MyHeritage kind of up against something more difficult for that side of things. So genealogically, MyHeritage, everybody really wants to get into, especially if you're looking for matches who live in South America and matches who live in Eastern Europe. But yeah, otherwise the ethnicity stuff for MyHeritage, it's a sore spot for them that it's almost kind of like an Achilles heel in a sense where, it brings them down entirely if it's not up to par, because even though everything else they have, which is the more genealogically useful stuff, is much better than the other sites, it doesn't matter as much to most people. And that's what matters more to the entire database, is the more people testing. So they want to improve it. They certainly do. And I hope that they're able to, especially because I only think once MyHeritage really becomes serious competition for Ancestry, I think that may be the only time we'll see Ancestry start to really consider a chromosome browser. I don't know for sure, but that's the one thing we all really hope for, that chromosome browser. Yeah, PZ, it's my understanding that MyHeritage has paused the update because the algorithm needs correcting. I'm now waiting for my version 2.1 update post filling out the Google form where I gave lots of negative feedback. Yeah, so that's exactly what I'm talking about, is they asked for feedback from a lot of folks and people gave it to them. Charlie, a wizard is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to. And that's exactly what you know exactly when to come in. Keep things going. And especially in the points where I'm like, I should probably mention the Discord right now. Yeah, MyHeritage results right now aren't the greatest. Like even on my own, my admixture results for MyHeritage aren't. I'm not the biggest fan of them all, but I think with the MyHeritage update, the biggest thing I'm looking for is them to actually release precision and recall numbers. I've said that to a few of the people that work in MyHeritage, people who work in varying capacities. Granted, a lot of people, I don't know if they work in a capacity that would actually bring that change about. But it's something that I've said to them. So, and then there's a lot of stuff too in that video I released last year about things that I want to see for updates from or not just MyHeritage, but things that tools I want to see the companies roll out. And I don't know if anyone's publicly said they've worked on any of them, but there have been some things that some of them have kind of rolled out. Not really. Like I think the biggest thing was a few of them rolled out a bit more advanced notification settings. But the biggest thing I want from them, which I just don't understand why they don't do it, is being able to filter your match list by a certain admixture that the match is getting, and even more by a certain percentage. So like for people who get like a very small percentage of Jewish and they want to see, do they have a lot of 100% Jewish ancestors or matches, they can do a filter search and look, I want matches that are 90% or more Ashkenazi Jewish for their admixture. Or, maybe the opposite way. If you find matches, if you're 100% Jewish like I am, and then you find a match who's only 25% Jewish, that gives you a much better chance of figuring out your relationship, because all you have to do is find their Jewish grandparent. You know exactly which line of their family to look through. So being able to filter by that, or, there's a lot of various techniques that could come out of having that ability. So that's the biggest one I want that I talked about. Yeah. I have been going just over now. I was originally planning to only go an hour today because I had a appointment to go get my hair and beard trimmed. And then my stylist hit me up and busy doing stuff. So that got canceled. So now I know my pups aren't going to be able to go outside. It's raining where I'm at right now. Actually, I should check the radar, see how that is. Oh wow, yeah, look at that. Why is that so low moving? Wow, that's not going to clear up for a while. All right, well, my dogs are not going to be happy about that. They're not going to be happy about that. So, all right. So let's see. All right. So what conferences do people want to check out? I'm kind of curious. Let me know what if there was one conference that you really could. I mean, I guess there's really many options, but like, I am curious. So get a treadmill. I have a treadmill. They're not going to like the treadmill. They don't care about actually the walk. What they care about is the checking the things out along the walk. So the treadmill is just going to be a tease for them. Yeah, honestly, the way my dogs walk when after I got them, I had to start walking a lot more than I did before I had the dogs, because when I'd go on a walk, I'd keep a consistent pace. And then once I got the dogs, they stop all the time. All right. Let's see. All right. Well, honestly, I think I might go ahead and just call it a stream, call it a night. Yeah, so definitely recommend everybody check out conferences, genealogy conferences, especially Roots Tech. For one, you'll get to meet me there this year, hopefully, unless something comes up and makes it so that I'm not able to go. Definitely be sure to check out our Discord server if you haven't already. It's a decently active server. We have a lot of people on there helping each other out with genealogy, genetic genealogy, and then just just chatting about all sorts of other stuff. And then it's kind of a place for me to kind of post random things like music and videos and stuff that I like to watch. So you kind of get to know me a little bit better too. Hopefully going to get back to doing a stream every week. So next week, obviously, will be reaction channel. Week after that, we'll be back on here. Hoping to finally get a main channel video coming out soon. Working very diligently on it. But I will have a new reaction on Monday to that Veritasium video about investigative genetic genealogy. So yeah, lots of stuff to check out. So thank you everybody for joining today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. I am the Genie Vlogger, and I am out of here.